Welcome to the next video in our NOSS series. So previously where we left us, we have established a successful connectivity between networks. So we have installed routing remote access services, configured the routing protocol RIP, which means successfully connected between two networks. We have created a forest, made SDC as a domain controller. We have added the client from Swansea network to the domain. So now we also have created a user in Swansea domain. We can check it now. Check it now in this video. And we are going to add the child domain and LD client to the domain. Okay, so these are things which we'll be doing now, right? So before we start, so here's SD domain. So I have my client here. So let's sign out from my Swansea client. Sign out. So I think we know, just go to the tools here and then users. So this is the user we have. It's Nitish is the user. So sign out anyway. Let's go and check a couple of things from our previous one. So other user, I'm going to sign in as a domain user. So it says that sign in to Nitish. So I would go for Nitish, which is my user. And then I sign in. Here we go. We haven't created a user called Nitish in our local client machine, but this is a user which we created in our domain controller. And now we can access it in any of the client which is a member of the domain, right? So that's one thing we have done. Let's go to this. Okay, so now we are going to add a child domain. Is that, yeah, created a user, we checked it, it worked. So we are going to add a child domain and LD client to the domain. All right, let's go to our L server and check. Yep. So we have installed already the Active Directory domain services. You could see that post deployment configuration promote this server as a domain controller. But before that, let's go and check if the computer name is not changed. So let's go and change the computer name. Change computer name. It is going to be L server, right? Okay. You must restart the computer. Restart it now, and then we can, once it is back, we can start working on that. Okay, while we are waiting, we can just go back to this guy. So we started in our previous video, we started with working with PowerShells, right? So let's go to our PowerShell integrated standard environment. That's somewhere we can, instead of just a command prompt to work with, we can have an interface, or we can have some help support kind of an environment. So we can go there while we're waiting for the server to boot. Yeah. So here is our, here is our server. So what we did is previously we were working on some of the commands, maybe checking some DNS configurations, right? So we will continue with that. So get, oops, get alt space. If I press alt space, it will show me help. So I want to see what I have, net IP address or net IP configuration. So it is going to give me the net IP configuration. While we are waiting for the net IP, yeah, here we go. So it says that this is your IP config. You have SW internal, which is a part of nitish.nos 192.168.1.1. You have the DNS server, which is 127.0.0.1. You have Ethernet, which is which is also part of your nitish.nos, but this is a NAT network. And then we have SW external, which is nitish.nos, and it's 10.0.0.1. And you could see that here the DNS server is 127.0.0.1, whereas here, if we go to our network adapter, it takes a while because all my machines are on. Yeah. So if I go to my internal here, if you remember previously, I have given my preferred DNS as 192.168.1.1, which is the server itself, but it has picked it up as 127.0.0.1. So there is no difference between that. So either I say that, oh, this is my DNS server, or I can say that it's a loopback. It's 127.0.0.1 is a loopback which points back again to the same IP address. So it's fine. All right. So this is something which I asked you like previously when I was configuring the DNS. I said, what is the other option you do? And so this is the option you do, right? Okay. So let's go and see ipconfig / display any DNS entries we have. So it says that there is no display. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to ping www.nitish.com. If I'm going to ping nitish.com, remember when we configured our DNS previously here, when we configured a conditional forward. So when we go to the conditional forwards, it's nitish.com and it should go via 8.8.4.4, which means if it doesn't know, if it wants to resolve nitish.com, it would go to this DNS server, which is again Google's DNS server, to find out the IP address of nitish.com, right? So if I'm going to ping this one, I get a successful ping, right? Okay, so now if I just go and display my DNS, I should get a DNS entry in it, right? It will be now stored in a cache of this local machine. So next time it will not go to this 8844, rather than it will have it in this cache. It will fetch it from the cache. Okay, so it says that it's a record type is 5. The CNAME record is nitish.com. It got the answer, and this is the A record, the host IP address which is received, which is 204.44.192.77. So you can try with other IP address, other websites or domain names as well. So if I want to clear this cache and say that I don't want anything to be in the cache, I want it to be refreshed. So you say flush DNS. And now if you say display DNS, so that's a problem. So here, if you're typing inside the command prompt, you won't get that help. See, it's gone, right? So this is some of the things which you can do. So this is really interesting. You can also add entries. See, remember, so in one of our videos when we were working on this DNS thing, right? So we went in here, clicked on the DNS, and then we wanted to add conditional forwarders. We want to click on tools, we want to go to DNS, and then we want to click on, sorry, we want to go to DNS, and we have to click into the DNS, go whether we want to do a forward lookup zone, you create a zone, or you want to do a conditional zone. So you want to go right click, new conditional forwarder. So it's a lot of process which you have to do. Even though it is easy in a GUI, it's still a lot of process to do, whereas in a PowerShell it's not that much difficult. So let's say add control space, and then what am I going to add? So I'm going to add maybe DNS, so it's DNS. So here I want to, do I need to add a DNS server, client, conditional forwarder? So let's go and say a conditional forwarder. We can add another conditional forwarder. So DNS server, conditional forwarder zone. So this time I say, if you want to search for, let's say, maybe abc.com, all right, and you use or let's go, yeah, it's a conditional forwarder. So let's say you want to use a web server dot nitish dot nos. You go into 192.168.1.1. So that's a conditional forward. Okay, so let's see if it works, and I'm just going to execute it. Maybe yeah, because it can't create a zone because it is not finding anything for web server.nos. So okay, maybe we will try something else. Let's say if you want to go for let's say abc.com, you go with 8.8.8.8 and execute it. Here we go, it's done. So if I'm going to ping abc.com, it will now go through I mean 8888 to work on. So instead of clicking on all these steps to go to tools, DNS, and then find out things, you know, you can just do it. So here you could not see the entry at the moment. So you refresh it, you could see ABC is going through 8888. Nitish.com is going through 8844. So this is the power of using PowerShell. It's if you start practicing it, this is going to be the easiest way for you to configure things. You can even add roles and features and everything within this PowerShell. Right, let's go back to where we are. All right, administrator. We are now going to add a child domain. So we have the successful ping because we have the routing. So it should be now, it should be able to communicate with the other server, with the root domain. So what we are going to do is just give some time to load. Yeah, I'm going to promote this as a domain controller. Add a domain to an existing forest, because we are not going to create a new forest here, which means it will become a completely new uh, domain. So I don't want to do that. I want to add a new domain to an existing forest. So what is the existing parent domain, which is nitish.nos. I want to select it. It asks for my password. I give my password and then I say OK. It's going to retrieve my domain in the forest. Oops. Encoded an error contacting domain nitish.com. The server is not operational. Right. Okay. Again, the problem is my DNS. So let's go to my network, and I'm just going to give the DNS. I'm going to give 1.1, which is my DNS server. Okay. I'm not going to give this server. I'm giving 1.1 as my server. And now let's check if it could here we go. It's a domain, which is a problem. So when I give the domain and when I say the server that, hey, if you want to retrieve or resolve the IP address of nitish.nos, go and check 192.168.1.1, which is my DNS server. And because it has the connectivity now, it can go and access it. So I'm selecting this. And what is your domain name? What is the child domain's name? It's LD. Okay. So I give LD, and I think, oops, sorry. So it said could not log into your domain with the specified credentials. I'm trying to log into nitish.nos, but I have a L server local administrator, so which I have to change. I have to go with .nos administrator. Okay. It should now pick up. Fingers crossed again. While you're configuring a network. Yep, here we go. It's not valid, or it's not, could not log into your domain with the specified credentials. Maybe my password is wrong. Oh, no, it's still going through. We have to wait. Yeah, what I was trying to tell is, when you are doing some configurations, always expect to get some errors. Maybe if you are not doing things properly, if you make a simple mistake, then that's a problem. So you have to develop your skills to troubleshoot. So you can troubleshoot it more effectively only when you have the understanding of the concept properly. That's what exactly which we wanted to give you. And see, it's fine now. It works. Okay. So maybe that was a message which was from the previous one. Now it is all done. So it's domain functional, first name. It's fine. So it asks for a password for my backup. I give my password, re-enter my password. I go next. Create DNS delegation. Yeah, because I have another DNS server, which is 192.168.1.1, right? Um, and it's now going to verify my NetBIOS. It should come up with the domain which is registered, which is LD for me now. Yep, here we go. We have LD, which is the domain. Say next. We have to wait a bit because it is now getting all the configurations sorted. Here we go. Next. Review your selections, and it is going to check your prerequisite. Here we go. All the prerequisite checks passed successfully. Install. I'm just going to install it. It will take a while. Let me. So here we go. It's done successfully and it is about to sign out. So, yep. So once it signs out and signs in back, it should be all in the domain. And then we can add this client to the domain as well. So while that's going on, like resume this client and change the DNS server, then it should be all good to go. So I'm logging into this user and the default gateway is fine. Right, ncpa.cpl. I'm just checking if the pings work fine. Yep, it should work fine. It's not pinging because I think the server is still loading. This server is the point of the interface between the two networks. So it's still, let's see when it gets on. At the same time, let's go into this guy, go to the properties. So I'm just going to give 192.168.1.1, which is my DNS for this network. Give OK, give OK. It's still, yep, it's applying its computer settings. So hopefully we'll get it. So we will keep everything ready. Once we have this communication established, it should be all done. Advanced system settings. Go to computer name. I want to change the domain. I want to add it to ld.dish.nos. I'm not going to give OK now. It is going to fail because I haven't established communication at here. I'm just waiting this to load on. Get a reply from 1.1, which means the connectivity is all set, and I can add. Yep, here we go. We get a reply, which means the server should be now up and running. I'm going to click OK here. For a domain could not be contacted, please ensure the domain name is corrected properly. It should be fine. Okay, maybe it's because it looks for this guy as its DNS. No. Let's go to the details. LD might be NetBIOS domain name. In this case, very careful with the domain properly registered with the VINs. DNS does not exist. Okay. ld.netish.nos. Okay. It should be 1.1. Campaign 1.1, so it should resolve things. .nos is the domain name. Okay. Let's see what's the problem. One or more of the following zones do not include delegation to its child zone. It's a root zone, ld.netish.nos. It doesn't have it, so let's fix it. I made a few change in the DNS, not in the DNS server, but the configurations in the DNS, like what is the DNS server referred to in the London server and in my London client as well. So let's try now to do ld.netish.nos, and here we go. So it's administrator. So I have to give my computer name as well. So it's Natish. It's ld.natish.nos administrator and my password. Okay, and yeah, here we go. We have added this to the NOSS. So the changes what I have made here is I'm not going to restart now. The changes what I made here is I have made this one as 192.168.2.1 as my DNS server for the client, and because it's going to talk to the client here. And in this client, what I made is I made 127.0, which is a local one, as my preferred DNS server, and then my alternate DNS server will be my domain controller, or my forest root domain. Okay, so these changes I made it, and this is now quite successful, right? Right. So which means that now we have done, we have added child domain and added the client as well. We have configured DNS. We will look more in detail about the A records and the reverse lookup maybe in the upcoming videos. But yeah, so we have created almost everything, which means that the two networks can communicate with each other, and they are now part of the domain. So this is going to be the root domain here, and then we have the child domain, which means the advantage is the root domain and the child domain can have trust by default, which means you remember we have created a user Nitish in this domain, so which we have logged in from this client. We could log in even from this client. We can now log in because this is part of this domain, and this is now a child domain of this root domain, which means that we can establish trust. So let's check that before going into this. Let's go to the users here. Computers, you could see that you have your client added to it. And if you want to add your users, this is where you want to export your users from the Excel spreadsheet. So we will talk about that uh, after some time, maybe in another video. But before that, let's go to this client here. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use Nitish, which is in my domain, which is my, the user from my Swansea domain. I can just log in here. I can log in. It goes in, right? Which means I have my server. Uh, anything from my, sorry, wrong. Anything from my child domain or anything from my parent domain can be trusted within my child domain, and I can still access it. I can access an user who is part of my root domain as well, right? Hope these things are helpful. See you soon in the next video.